maybe needed this, even if we didn't know we needed it. Often what happens if you go into a session where someone says, let's do meditation, is that if you were able to look at the thought bubbles, like in cartoons, above the heads of people, there will be a lot of activity going on during the first minute, second, third, but increasingly less so. It takes really a long time, typically, for many of us in a situation like this, where she didn't ask us to meditate or focus or anything. But even if it's explicitly or implicitly requested, it takes time for us to silence our mind. How many of you felt more relaxed and at ease towards the end and after the performance than at the beginning? Yes, exactly. And it's really interesting for us in a happiness summit like this to really be able to develop our meta skills as well, observing ourselves, observing something. And often if you do it in a situation like this, you can notice that, yeah, my thoughts are still running around, and what is she doing, and who is she, and oh, what do I need to do, or there's this email, and it takes several minutes, but it's a valuable skill. So this was the contribution of the uni arts that we have here in Finland, and more specifically here on stage we had Mitra Matuf. She's an actress, singer, dancer, airplane pilot, and visual artist. She has a very strong body control in many of her performances and a sense of rhythm which comes from a history of music and dance. And her special skills include, as I mentioned, flying airplanes, but also hunting and martial arts. And she's proficient in languages because of her diverse background, and she has brought a lot of diversity to the acting landscape here in Finland. So we're really glad to have you here with us. A warm applause once more for Mitra Matuf. Now, one of the important collaborators and partners of this event is, of course, the University of the Arts here in Helsinki, or Uni Arts Helsinki for short. It was established 12 years ago when the Academy of Fine Arts, the Sibelius Academy, and the Theatre Academy were merged. And I think it's really important for us to have this kind of experience instead of just talking heads and facts here. Another thing which we have eliminated here, I think, quite nicely is social media. I haven't mentioned any hashtags here. Without shaming anyone, whether you're doing it during the presentations or in between. How many of you have posted on social media about this? Very few. Excellent. This in itself is a secret. You had to be here to experience it. None of all that pseudo participation. Either here, I'm here, look how good I am, and I retweeting and tweeting, etc., of children and young people. And as many of you recognize, how many of you recognize the name Beriling? Okay. Most of you, almost all of you. It was founded by Claes Beriling and Anki Lidén after their son Tim Beriling, most famously known as Avicii. Left us. And this happened in 2018. The vision of the foundation is a society where children and young people feel well, experience safety and hope for the future, and are given the opportunity to reach their full potential. Those who still struggle should be quickly offered support. And on that note, we want to warmly welcome here on stage Kaja Korosek and Ebba Salén. Warmly welcome.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Before we start today, I would like to thank you for the wonderful introduction to Tim Bergling Foundation. They're a fantastic partner to us. We're here today because Kamsa, who was supposed to speak, has fallen ill. So we're representing the Inner Foundation, but in very close mindset and intention with Tim Bergling Foundation, we represent the Inner Foundation, who also work proactively with youth well-being. So, before we get started here today, I would presumptuously like to assume that most of you are fully aware of the fact that Finland was named for the 8th consecutive time in a row the world's happiest country. And this is something that the Nordics are leading globally, the conversation on well-being and happiness. And with that backdrop, it feels especially meaningful to stand here before you today, not only at the first ever Nordic Happiness Summit, but also on a panel related to youth well-being. Because we're here to talk about a group that oftentimes are at the heart of the conversation, but tends to fall on the sidelines when it comes to the current support systems in place. There are approximately 3.8 million emerging adults across the Nordics, a group that oftentimes are left out. And the fact is that we can see that within this age span, mental health challenges are on the rise. And too many are struggling, both in terms of finding the right support at the right time and also doing it in a way that fits their unique needs. My name is Ebba Salén. I'm the head of communications at the Inner Foundation, and I'm joined here today by my colleague Kaja, who is our postdoctoral researcher on the specific life stage of emerging adulthood. And we're happy to stand before you today, and we will together speak on the state of affairs for this very target group that is emerging adults. And more specifically about our collective impact approach in unison with Tim Bergling Foundation and Reach for Change that is called Next in Mind. I noticed I have this, which can be good to use during a presentation. What is Next in Mind? It's a collective impact response to the mental health challenges that we're witnessing among this specific target group. It's co-founded by us at the Inner Foundation, Tim Bergling Foundation, and Reach for Change. And it was born from a shared sense of urgency that the cost of doing nothing about the mental health crisis among emerging adults is way too high. When young people don't receive the support they need, we lose potential at scale. We see this as one of the greatest challenges facing our societies today, and one we no longer can afford to not do anything about. Our mission is to strengthen the mental health of emerging adults across the Nordics by supporting social entrepreneurs with proven and impactful solutions that address their well-being, whilst in parallel working with shifting the systems surrounding these entrepreneurs to ensure that their meaningful impact can grow and scale. We do this from a twofold approach. We run a scaling readiness program supporting 20 social entrepreneurs across the Nordics, each developing practical and proven solutions that strengthen the mental well-being of emerging adults. And these are change makers reaching young people in ways that traditional systems typically do not. These are through peer-led models, digital intervention, community-based solutions, all rooted in what emerging adults need and how they want to be supported. Each of these organizations receive tailored support. It's both through a financial investment of 300,000 SEK, but also combined with scaling building or capacity building support, both in terms of figuring out impact measurement frameworks, which can be quite a hassle for those of you working with that. It's operational model support and everything to get their impact to the next level. They also become a part of a Nordic-wide network of other change makers designed to foster collaboration, a shared sense of learning, and long-term connection. Secondly, we work at the ecosystem level, bringing together cross-sectorial partners across the Nordic ecosystem surrounding emerging adults' mental health, co-creating advocacy initiatives to put the focus on this specific group, and mapping the current ecosystem of support. And all of this is guided by an emerging adult advisory board, ensuring that youth participation is not a nice add-on, but a given and embedded part of all of our efforts. Because we know that meaningful change doesn't happen in isolation, and definitely not without the voices of those who are ultimately affected. With that context, I'll hand over to my dear colleague Kaya, who will dig a bit deeper into this distinct life stage, outlining why it's important and so transformational in terms of its importance, and why it deserves our laser-focused attention.
Thank you, Emma. I'm Kaya Koroshets. I'm a postdoc researcher at the Royal College of Music, affiliated to Karolinska Institute, and I'm doing this postdoc project in collaboration with and funded by the Inner Foundation. So I'm looking at emerging adults, mapping what we know so far about the population and what are the knowledge gaps that exist in this field. So, just very briefly about what we mean by emerging adulthood. It's this in-between stage between adolescence and adulthood when we are starting to take on the roles of an adult, living on our own for the first time, starting our first serious relationships, finishing school, starting work, and so on. And the reason, the concept itself, emerging adulthood, is relatively new, from the end of 90s, early 2000s, and it came about because of the realization that it seems to take longer for young adults to reach adulthood in the recent history because of social, economic reasons, for example, higher costs of living, greater need for post-secondary education, more emphasis on self-realization and things like that. So that's one part of the reason that it seems to be taking longer to reach full adulthood. And another part is that we realize that our brain actually takes quite a bit longer to fully mature. It keeps on developing, keeps on maturing well into our 20s, maybe perhaps even late 20s. So this makes this stage quite turbulent, full of complex changes, both external and internal. And I think Wood and colleagues put it so greatly. They say no stage in life, other than perhaps infancy, experiences such dynamic and complex changes on the personal, social, emotional, neuroanatomical, and developmental levels. So a very turbulent stage. We experience this rapid decrease in available support and at the same time increase in responsibilities. Unfortunately, this 20s are also the age when those who are at risk for developing psychiatric conditions, they often manifest these conditions in our 20s. In addition to that, we can also see different reports showing that happiness and well-being of young adults in recent years seems to be dropping. We used to talk about this U-curve of happiness being relatively high in youth, dipping a little bit in middle adulthood, and then rising again towards older age. But now there's more and more studies showing that it actually seems to be more of a linear relationship, with happiness and life satisfaction being the lowest among our youth nowadays. So it's very, very important that we pay closer attention to what the needs of this population are and how can we better support them. And this is exactly why Next in Mind did the study, a survey study in collaboration with Perspectivo, with Nordic young adults. We wanted to specifically focus on the needs and kind of the situation of emerging adults in the Nordic countries. So we had 18 to 29-year-olds from all 4 Nordic countries, and around 1,000 participants were part of this survey. Now, I encourage you, we seem to have an older version of slides. But we can share the QR code, the link to the report. It's publicly available online in case you're interested in seeing a bit more details around this focus group, around this group. There's also very nice infographics and everything, but I'll just share a few little details. For example, 85% of those who were a part of the survey have encountered problems when seeking help for their mental health. And these problems had to do with long waiting lines, with poor quality of support services, and also with affordability of the services themselves. Mental health also seems to be a common struggle, a common experience for the majority of emerging adults in the Nordics, unfortunately. 69% of all the respondents to the survey said that they have experienced mental health issues at some point in the past. And 6 out of 10 chose not to seek help because of stigma. And then another 50% said that stress related to work and studies is kind of the main reason for why they are feeling unwell. Unfortunately, we're very pressed for time, but I do encourage you, we're going to be sharing the link to the full report in case you're interested. All in all, I feel like the 4 Nordic countries had more in common than they were different. A lot of the young adults reported stress related to work and school, loneliness, relationships, difficulty, challenges in relationships, and uncertainty about their personal but also financial future. With that, I would like to give the word over to Ebba again. Thank you so much.
Even if this was a bit of a brief run-through, I would highly encourage you to check out the survey. It provides a lot of insight and also good context to the fantastic work that our entrepreneurs are doing within this space. So up to stage, I would like to welcome Markus Raivo from Kokonori and Ida Nevelen from Marked by Purpose, who, an applause is in order. Ida and Marcus are 2 of the fantastic entrepreneurs who are part of our Scaling Readiness program in Next in Mind. And I would like to ask you some brief but hard-hitting questions to outline your work.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I don't know if this microphone works. It does. Sounds great. Happy to be here. Happy to be working in the field of human happiness. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Really great to be here with you all. My name is Ida Nevalainen. I'm the founder at Marked Global. And yes, sharing the same mission, how to make young, happy minds.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I would like to start off, you both are obviously working with emerging adults. And what would you say, Marcus, are the biggest challenges that you address through the Kokonori model in terms of addressing the mental well-being of young adults in the Nordics?
I think the main challenge is that people are looking for support, which they don't find for some reason. I've been working in the mental health field now for 28 years. Can you believe that? But that's true, with emerging adults mainly. And I think the challenge is that we have a lot of mental health services which are not actually mental health services, they are mental health problem services. So we don't really have any services getting into that, what is mental health actually. So we start to see mental health as a problem, which is not. Actually, we all have mental health in this room, but for some reason we are talking like it's some kind of problem. It's the only health that is actually just a problem, is it? So it's also something that really creates the stigma and feeling that people don't belong to those services.
No, thank you for that contextualization. It's more about living up to your full potential in that sense. Ida, what would you say? What are the biggest challenges that you are witnessing through to your work?
Yes. To give a little background, our work started from my classroom where I had 7 students, and when talking about mental well-being, I talk about in the prevention side of it. And we see that we have in the Nordics, in Finland, amazing school system, education we can be really proud of, and we are but still we have some skills that I think we should teach at the school. And I saw it in my own work that when starting to teach about the skills to really understand our mind, our emotions, all the way from the nervous system and how to create connection with others, it really impacts the well-being. It's skills, it's attitudes, and for us also active participation. So from us is to bring the mental well-being education into the school system and to make it accessible for everyone, so that all the young people would have equally the skills.
Thank you. When we're talking about the barriers for young people in accessing support, I think it would be of interest to get to know a bit how you're both working with Kukonori and Mark by Purpose to helping them get over the barriers and thresholds to what access actually means. So could you outline a bit about Kukonori and what the work you're doing?
Thank you. So our main job right now is to really develop and scale this idea of culture houses, which are working with the guided functional peer support model, which is all about just training young adults to tutor different kind of functional groups to each other. If you know a little bit about guitar, if you know 3 chords, we will train you to be the leader of that group for 5 people who are also interested about the same topic than you are. We made this large survey asking people, I think there was about 1,000 young emerging adults, and what would be the most important thing for your life right now? And the answers were quite identical. The first one was, I want to do something meaningful. And the second was, I don't want to be left alone anymore. And so we wanted to make this kind of combination that why don't we train you to lead the group that you are passionate about, so you will be the leader of it. And it's a non-diagnostic, non-door whatsoever, no treasures at all, communities and places where people can actually share their passion with others.
Thank you. Youth participation at its finest. Could you provide some context to Mark by Purpose? What work are you doing?
Yes. So, like said, we see schools and education as a way to drive meaningful change. And in Mark with Purpose, we strengthen mental well-being by strengthening skills, attitudes, and the powerful sense of purpose. And we train educators to deliver our research-based youth program that offers the opportunity for young people to create connection to self, connection to others, and connection to the world around them, strengthening positive self-perception, finding your inner resources that you can use, not just to survive or cope, but to really use the resources within you and learn the social emotional skills, and then discover how every one of us has something unique to contribute, to do something meaningful together. So through schools and education.
Thank you. I think to end on a good note, I like the notion of being optimistic rather than problem-oriented. What do you see as the biggest opportunities for improving mental health among emerging adults, and what gives you hope for the future?
I think the opportunity, the best one, is already here with the young adults, emerging adults, in every people who has a courage to reach out, to find support and find new possibilities. Maybe even every peer leader, peer tutor that we are training, asking 4 or 5 people, would you like to know something cool that I know how to do? Would you like to know what is meaningful for me? That would be a great start. And that really gives me the idea that these kind of connections, these culture houses that we are establishing, there's about 25 culture houses in Finland right now. About 3,500 young adults are going through this program. And every time when you see that kind of connection between them, where they can actually have that kind of feeling of competence and feeling of doing something meaningful, that gives me hope. There's always some kind of new promise in tomorrow for every one of us. I think that's the point.
Beautiful. What What about you, Ida?
We have recognized some attitudes and beliefs that we also want to nurture. And the first one that we usually see strengthened is the realization that there's nothing wrong with me when understanding ourselves and through that others. And the second one is that I can impact the things around me, always starting within myself. And the third one is that I have something meaningful to contribute and I can feel meaning in my life. So for us, the thing is that when creating connection to self and others, what usually happens quite easily and naturally is the willingness to contribute to the world around you for a better world. So that is what gives hopes for us, because I think young people, adolescents, they are the resource for us to really create something meaningful when they are given the opportunity to do so. And that is what gives us hope, and that is what we want to, what is the opportunity by supporting the mental well-being.
Thank you both so much. We are incredibly proud to have you here on stage representing the sense that we can truly turn hope into action and that there's so many solutions out there who are doing the work. It's just about scaling it. On that note, I would like to thank each and every one of you here today for listening. As we've said, I know we mentioned that talking about hashtags and social media features wasn't the approach, but if you would like to partake in the report and check these fantastic entrepreneurs' work out, we highly encourage you to do so. So thank you for your time, and I hope you all leave a bit inspired.
Yes, social media has been a double-edged sword over the years. Initially, of course, as soon as people started pulling out mobile phones out of the pockets in buses or trams or in an audience, speakers were really annoyed. Aren't you following what I'm saying? Then gradually the pendulum swinged so that it was flattering. Oh, I'm saying something highly interesting. People are immediately tweeting and WhatsApping about it, etc. Now, of course, as awareness has once again increased, it's gone the other way around. So it's been good to have people following here. But we'll now continue on this same note, discussing youth, and we'll be talking about students. This next session will be provided to us by SYL, Suomen ylioppilaskuntien liitto, det vill säga Finlands studentkårers förbund, the National Union of University Students in Finland. And it represents over 140,000 students in Finland. With us we have President Anselmi Auramo and his colleague Rasmus Lindstedt, and as the moderator we'll have Lauri Löyttyniemi. He's passionate about people and growth and works with growth at Go Bike. And last year he cycled from Paris to Helsinki, a journey which he characterizes as filled with movement, challenge and happiness along the way. So please give a warm welcoming hand to Lauri Löyttyniemi, Rasmus Lindstedt and Anselmi Auramo.
All right. Good morning. Hyvää huomenta. Good morning. Before we start the panel, I have one question to the audience. I'm quite curious. What will you take away from this Nordic Happiness Summit? Because it might be just knowing how happy we are right now, or knowing how happy we could be in the future. And about the future, we have two very wise men on my right that might have the response to that question. So let's go direct to the topic. Anselmi and Rasmus, where are we right now in terms of student well-being?
Good morning for you all. Happy to be here. And I think that we are at the crossroads in this matter. In Finland, we have according to many surveys and according to many metrics, 1/3 of the students are not feeling well. They have the problems regarding to studies, regarding to their personal life, regarding to their mental health, I mentioned previously. And we are at the crossroads. What will we do with this problem? How we will solve this problem? So I think that's our current situation that we are in right now.
I think in terms of the Swedish students, I also have to always keep in mind I represent almost 500,000 students from bachelor's and master's level all the way up to PhD students. So speaking about students is not only speaking about these emerging adults or young people in general, but rather as a very, very broad collective. But I agree with Anselmi. We are really at the crossroads. And it's not only that you are, for example, stressed because you're a student in terms of your educational career or your academic achievements. You're also an individual in a society which, by many accounts, is faring much worse in an ever-changing world. Of course, in the Nordics with proximity to Russia, whatever that entails, in terms of housing, in terms of uncertainty, as if we take emerging adults, for example, uncertainty both in your academic achievements and career, but also as a young individual in a city, for example, with an enormous housing crisis. So students are not only as part of citizens exposed to stress and unhappiness and unhealthy factors, but in terms of students are even more exposed and pushed than other individuals.
Yes, thank you for the introductions. In terms of these problems that you briefly mentioned, let's deep more into the concrete. What do you see in terms of the problems we have today?
I think there are several issues affecting. I took the housing crisis, for example. Almost 70% of Swedish students live in a city where it takes over a semester to get student housing. And it's not only constrained to the big cities or Uppsala or Lund. For the Swedes, I can take an example with a city that's really hardly pressed, really has issues with housing, Halmstad, which is most famous because Per Gessle is from Halmstad, not that there's a housing crisis. But also underfunding, and I think we'll get into the attitudes, not least of of university leadership. But for the past 30 years, Swedish education has been completely gutted and underfunded. We are lacking 13 billion crowns from the levels we were at the 90s, even though we are increasing ever more in terms of students. So underfunding, which in terms leads to low quality education, you aren't able to meet your teacher, for example. Those are also issues which really drive what we can see drive student unhappiness and lead to work-life issues.
Awesome, thank you so much. How about Finland?
I think that I would say that the same. Basically, we have the housing crisis as well. We have a lot of students who can't go to student housing, which is very good, of good quality, and everybody wants to go there. But only like 40% of the students can go to student housing. I'm from Lappeenranta. My university is in Lappeenranta, and last year we had 90 people in a queue to an emergency housing, which was matters on the floor, basically. 60 places in there, 90 people in the queue, and all the places were full. And at the same time, this online renting website, which basically has all the housing that is available, there was 15 studio apartments. So that was the situation in Lappeenranta. Same happening all over in Finland. There are no apartments for the students, and at the same time we need more higher educated people in this country and in the Nordics in general, because higher education and higher educated people are the ones who bring the growth. They are the ones who bring the innovativeness, investments, stuff like this. So we can't stop at this point and be like, yeah, we don't need any more. So we need to have the infrastructure to have students. The funding is the other thing. Finland is the last among the last places in OECD countries of higher educated young adults. We were at the top in the 90s, and now we are at the bottom, behind all the Nordic countries and behind all the Baltic countries. So that's the situation.
There's been a lot of talk about Finland being happier than Sweden in this ranking, and as a Swede, I'm very satisfied to say that not only is Finland one of the worst countries in terms of number of people going to higher education, but Sweden actually until a few years ago was the worst in terms of teacher-led time at universities, and Finland just a few years ago passed us.
Yeah.
So Finland is worse, Sweden is the second worst. But just to take teacher-led time as an example, if you're studying to become a teacher in upper secondary school or in middle school, a Swedish student who's studying to become a teacher would have, on average, in a week, 4 hours of teacher-led time. And once those 4 hours are up, you go home, you sit in your tiny student apartment alone, you try to study, try to cram knowledge into your head. And also just to add, it's not that Swedish students are lazy. We spend among the most time in terms of self-study. So we get the least teacher-led time, but spend the most time on self-study in several subjects. And that really also adds to isolation, for example, for students who are maybe have moved from Halmstad to Stockholm or from Lappeenranta to Helsinki, and are then forced to live alone and study in solitude.
Yeah. And I think as we are talking about Finland being the happiest country in the world and Sweden somewhere near us in the top, that means that we have the bar quite high. And what is the problem is the change. If we are the most happy and then we lose some happiness, that will cause pain in the people. So we have the bar quite high and we need to perform better than we currently are in the future. So we need to go up. We can't be like, we are ahead, that we can stop investing in that.
Definitely, we need to perform definitely a lot better. Who can we blame for these problems? Is there anybody to blame for?
Yeah, the problem with education is that if you invest in education, you basically get the return in very, very, very late. So basically, things that are done to the kindergarten now, if you cut from the kindergarten now, it's not going to show in your numbers during your reign, basically. It's going to show in 20 years when they are young adults. And that's the problem that we are in. We have problems. We have aging population, so that will mean that we need more in healthcare, stuff like that, more funding in that. And then there's the defense things, security. We need to spend money on that. And those are the pressing issues which will show in your polling and will show in the elections very soon. But the education will show in 20 years. And no one is going to remember that in 20 years, what you did in the early 2000s or something like that. So that's where the problem, and we need to change that. We need to actually start investing into the future, because if we don't have the invest in the future, we're not going to have a future, basically.
I always love to blame the Swedish government. I think it's I'm pretty good at this as well. But
our job.
In terms of I think there's an issue that almost 500,000 Swedes are currently enrolled in higher education. We add up, we have almost 100,000 working as teachers, etc. And a huge part of the Swedish population has gone through higher education. So for Swedes, this is really an issue I think resonates, but politicians are still kind of unwilling to raise this issue. Secondly, there are concrete steps which you could take to relieve stress. One is, of course, add funding to match kind of the levels during the 90s. Another issue, for example, is enabling students to be on sick leave part-time. That's currently not, you're not able to do that, and if you were to go on sick leave even full-time, every student here knows it would be a kind of a death sentence to your academic career, because just being away for a few weeks would make you a year late. And if we turn to the universities, I think there are things universities can be blamed for as well. For example, we have our semester structure. I think it's the same here. It's part of the Bologna process to some extent. The semester structure is that you have fall semester all the way until the beginning of January. That means you never have really a time for when you can take a break. because during the summer you're expected to work, otherwise you will be evicted. During the fall you are expected to study, because otherwise you will fail. And then during the spring you write your thesis, and it's the most stressful part of your life. You have a project which you sit in your solitude, you have to produce 80 pages of research, basically all alone. So I think universities, for example, could ensure that courses have time for recovery and for leisure as well. And that's something universities actually have a responsibility and can act on.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the comments. Since we have the rectors just after us speaking, huge honor of them speaking, what would you say to them?
I would say that bring out the message that there is really no way to make I think that the idea of what the education minister basically has, that there is a lot of slack that can be taken out from the education system, that there is much more things that you can do to make things more efficient. And yeah, there is, but it's much easier to do that if you have more money. Because we have now the function in the education system that we need to do more, educate more, with better quality, and with less money. So something has to give away. And I think that's a very important message for the rectors to bring up, because I think that universities have done good work and will continue to do good work. We have the student unions and associations to ensure that, but we need to have a unified message to the top that we actually need more finances. So I wouldn't blame the rectors in us getting into this situation. The problem is in other places.
All right. More financing. How about you?
I completely agree. I raised the things universities can do. There's, of course, a lot more universities can do locally. I think, just as Anselmi said, we have to raise this issue of financing as a broader issue. And you mentioned student unions. The Swedish government is cutting student union funding. We no longer have the obligatory membership in student unions. The government has said they're cutting 30%. That's 2 million euro in the Swedish budget. That's nothing. It will lead for the Swedish state budget. It will lead to real consequences in terms of, for example, students being isolated because the student union is no longer able to be as active. It will lead to quality issues in education. And I know vice chancellors and rectors in Sweden are standing up and raising this issue, but I would hope they would raise it more. And then finally, on the terms of what can vice chancellors and rectors do, I remember very distinctly, I was the student union president at one of the small universities in Stockholm. We were sitting at the meeting, I sat next to the vice chancellor, and we were talking about how PhD students are feeling. For example, just then we had a cut in funding, so we had, I believe it was 7 or 8 PhD students sitting in a room made for 2 or 3. PhD students were complaining they weren't getting enough time with their professors, for example. There were issues which were being raised by these doctoral students, which were big and severe issues. And a lot of the professors said, but I remember that time when I was in London, I was doing my PhD, and it was the 90s, and everything was fine, and it was always sunny. And of course, that kind of leads you to think maybe your visions of the past are a bit blurry.
Yes.
So think about the fact that academia has changed quite considerably since the 90s, 30% less funding, for example, and stop trying to think. And I know it's hard being a professor, but being a PhD student with small children is also hard, of course.
Yes, please.
And I think that's a problem in the political level as well, that people remember the study times, they remember the good things about it, and how there was so much slack. And yeah, there was. But as the slack has been taken off bit by bit, there is not any more slack. And people tend to think that everything is same as in the 90s. But I can assure you that it's not. Everything is not same as in the 90s.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. As we have only around 2-3 minutes left, could you propose one more solution to this student well-being, or is that even possible?
I think we are completely agree on funding.
Yeah.
If my life would be so much easier if we were to get funding, but funding in general is an issue. But funding specifically for student health is also an issue, and that would require only small amounts of money, really. And just to take a concrete example, as a student in Stockholm, a lot of us share the Stockholm University Student Health Services, despite us being at different universities. It's almost 100,000 students sharing less than 15 staff. And that's the reality. So I think student health funding as well is really important, and to keep a keen mind about the fact that things change, and you have to adapt to the students who are studying currently, and not the students who we all wish we had 30 years ago.
Yeah.
How about you, Ras?
And one thing that I want to raise up, aside from the funding and aside from that, and this is actually a thing that universities can do, value the volunteer work. Whether it's the student union, whether it's subsidy association, hobby association, whatever, value that. Because that's why the road, for example, for myself, how I'm in front of you here speaking, that I started in my own guild doing media stuff. So value that. That will teach the students a lot of work-life soft skills that will make them more productive and valuable members of the population. So put value in that and tell others that there's a lot of value in that we should really invest in that as well.
Very good points, very good points. Well, we hope for sunny weather, as in the 90s, in the future as well. Thank you so much. Huge round of applause for Rasmus and Anselmi. Thank you.
Yes, very good. Fick rektorerna och universitetscheferna lite vägkost, kan man säga. And sorry, Rasmus, I just double-checked as soon as you started speaking. You, of course, represent Sveriges förenade studentkårer from Sweden, and you represent 390,000 students. Puny Finland with 140. Sorry about the insult, so you represented a much greater organization. But now, as became evident, we'll move on discussing with university leaders about happiness and well-being, so that we'll have a larger perspective on this in the academic setting, not only for students, but for faculty and institutions as a whole. And on stage, we'll be having once again Helge Torbjørnsen, who is a professor at the Norwegian School of Economics. We also have Carlo Hildén here with us today. He's the rector of the University of the Arts Helsinki, whom we have to thank for the performance here this morning. We'll hear and his take on happiness is that it's a paradox. The more you chase it, the further it escapes. He'll be elaborating on that. And then we also have Ingmar Björkman, who's the rector of Hanken School of Economics. He is also shaping the future of higher education by being on the board of Chalmers University of Technology, as well as the Council of Rectors of Finnish universities. So we'll give a warm welcoming hand to Helge, Carlo, and Ingmar, as well as the moderator, Professor of Practice Markus Vartiovaara from Hanken.
First of all, good morning to everybody. Hope you enjoyed last night. We had a wonderful day yesterday. For some, it continued well into the night, and hopefully a lot of good discussions. Yesterday we discussed well-being and happiness on a country level, organizational level, individual level. Today's sessions are especially meaningful for me. I find our universities being at the core of creating well-being as well as hope into our societies. You are captains of the ships of our universities, hopefully being as beacons of light for progress and prosperity for our youth and the future. So very grateful to have you here. We heard yesterday insights from our students about the importance of empowering education from Anton and Onni. We had very interesting presentations from Inner Foundation and our student representatives, really pressing the future needs of young people. Before we delve into the challenges of well-being that you see, I'd like to start with a quick question, putting a little bit contrasting two things like Mikael did yesterday about money and happiness and how to find the balance. So for you, what comes first? Research or students? Or how do you find a balance between these two?
I don't think we can present it that way. I think it's both and.
Yes?
Universities, even by law in Finland, are expected to do high quality research and then provide teaching and contribute to society, but based on that research. So to me, both are totally intertwined.
Well, I tend to agree that the research supports the students should do, because our education is based on the research. But of course, if we think about in resource-wise, it's always balancing many things where you invest and it's about people. Whether it's research or whether it's students, it's about the people who are making it, and that's the core of the universities are other vast communities that go also beyond the borders of the university. So we are part of big networks, and it's the people and the connections in between them that are the core in both research and the student well-being.
Well, so obviously teaching should be research-based, so that's there's no kind of opposition there. But I think, having said that, I think at some universities, at least the personal incentive structure for professors has been more kind of leaning towards research over education. And so at least at NHH, we've been trying to counter that in a way to make more personal incentives and group incentives for professors and faculty also to prioritize excellent teaching, not just excellent research, because even though research or teaching should be research-based, there is only so many hours in a day, right? So you have to make some trade-offs, and I think we really should foster excellent teaching as also on the individual level for professors.
Very good. You all passed the first question, of course. We all know it's a tricky balancing act that you are doing with multiple stakeholders like you, Carlo, bring forward, and maybe how we open up universities in novel ways and create this creative environment for future developments. So now dwelling into problems. What do you see as the main problems in terms of well-being you see in our universities today?
Well, I think you could describe it on two levels. First of all, I feel that we are living in a time where many of the mental well-being problems are actually rooted in societal challenges and a polycrisis that should first be solved. So we shouldn't, as universities, think that, okay, we are trying to deal with the mental challenges, mental well-being challenges that are actually caused by much bigger problems. We have to deal with the big problems that are causing a lot of stress for young people. Where it's a very foggy future we are that lie ahead of us. So that's I think the long-term huge problem we have to deal with, how to build a pathway towards a sustainable future, and then coping in an environment of insecurity is putting a lot of stress on the student, and the culture is also, and cultures are rapidly changing, becoming more international, becoming also we get many new kind of tensions from the society that we see within our community, and we have to deal with them and prepare our students for a world where you have to rely on your capacity to navigate in a very unsecure world.
Yeah, I certainly subscribe to that, and we didn't talk that much about this yesterday, but if you look at the pattern for the World Happiness Ranking last couple of years, you see an increasing divide between young adults and older people. So for the Nordics, it's a party for 60 plus people. But if you look at the young, or at least what do you call the emerging adults, then the picture is not so bright. So, and it has, for students, I think it has two components, certainly what you describe and all the uncertainty. So making students capable of tackling uncertainty, ambiguity, all the risk in life. I think that's a key component, but also, at least at NHH, I'm sure for the other schools as well, it's an extremely competitive environment. You need really high grades to get in. Once you're in there, you used to be best in class. Now 3,500 students used to be best in class, should be a hero at daytime, hero at nighttime. So also trying to alleviate some of that stress and helping them navigate in that, I think that's important as well. Some years ago, we had a campaign called Good Enough, Godt Nok, just trying to alleviate some of the stress the students feel, because you should, get the best grades, exercise at the best body, stay at the student union at 2 o'clock in the night, and it won't add up. So you have to help them navigate that as well. And luckily, we have a student association which is extremely, well established. A lot of different teams and sports and cultural groups. So that helps us kind of take away some of that pressure. And that's frankly one of our biggest competitive advantages as a school, is a brilliant student association. So I think that working well with them and also fostering inclusion, and not because there's only so many people that can be in a football team or in a choir or whatever. So you need to also have a lot of inclusive open spaces for that everyone can attend to.
Quite clearly, there are challenges. So what can the universities do? The starting point, obviously, is that we need to offer a great education. We're already told where the part of the problem is. It's the governments and so on. We don't get enough resources. And it's clear, for instance, in the Finnish context that over the last 15 years, there has been a drop in terms of funding per master's degree by 30%. So this is a very real issue. Of course, compared to Norway, the Norwegians have it great. They have the old fund and so on. So looking at, so you could actually send some money in our direction. I think that would
Nordic
be to show,
this way.
yeah,
once they release
Nordic solidarity. But in addition to offering a good education, we can certainly work on the work-life skills on the part of our students. At the Hanken School of Economics, we have recently introduced a mandatory 6-credit course that basically deals with this. So all the students are going through a course where the first part is self-leadership, self-assessment. The second part has to do with interaction in teams, in groups, how to handle conflicts, how do you support each other, and the third one has to do with developing grit, how to deal with change, how to build resilience. So this is one of the ways in which we are working, and then obviously we are trying to support everyone. We are trying to support specific groups with particular needs, and we are trying to support those with particular problems. So, for instance, in the Hanken context, in spite of the financial challenges, we are funding ourselves, psychologists, and we even a analysis. So these are some ways in which we are doing this. But again, I would like to also stress what has been said here before. The student unions are playing a really important role in terms of integration, in terms of inclusiveness for our students. And the social aspect is very important, obviously.
Would you have other concrete solutions or ways that you are tackling this well-being challenge? Inko, you mentioned the course, but would there be some other things that you're actively doing on campus to ensure well-being, both for students and others?
Perhaps I could add that I believe that much of the learning takes place outside the courses. It's in the community, how we interact, what we value, and so on. So the social climate affects a lot, universities aren't easy in the sense that they are competitive environments, as was told here, and it's a very critical time for the students in their lives. But the social climate around that, including the pedagogy, the approach to learning and supporting learning is crucially important. It's not something that you can solve by, okay, let's do this and then it's fine, but it's something that you have to constantly work and work on and think about also the changing environment. What worked good in the 90s doesn't necessarily work well today. And one concrete thing that we've worked with a lot with the recent curriculum reform was that the workload of the student has to be realistically calculated, because we tend to aim high, I guess in all universities, and we wish everyone to sort of make the most out of it, and then we are not realistic about the workload, and it becomes adding up courses one after another. It sort of builds up to something that can be unrealistic as a whole. So I think that's really a core thing. One thing that we invest in a lot is actually the student-led time, because the learning process in the arts is very personal. You have to depend on your own artistic identity, your personality, your creative capacity, and you're doing always something that is, even if it's competitive, it's always a bit unique, and it requires a lot of personal approach. So, for example, in the instrumental lessons, we, even if we have financial challenges at the moment, we are not cutting on the minutes of personal interaction between the student and the teacher. So every student receives 90 minutes of time with the student personal, one-to-one. And that's something that is required in this area. So the main thing is that we know pretty well how our students are because of that close connection. And that is also a part of the artistic process. It's really hard to be creative if you're not well. So the soft skills and the sort of hard skills, they are always very intertwined in the arts.
Yeah, I certainly agree, and especially on the practical level, scheduling courses and assignment, and the total workload is obviously a very practical thing that we constantly work with. And we obviously have the happiness course, which is very practical, making sure students are aware of what empirically will make them happy, and so they have the opportunity to choose, and we help them make better decisions for themselves. I also think if there's one thing that COVID showed us, it's the importance of social relationships. And there's a lot of stress on the student body during COVID. So I think one practical thing also is getting students back on campus, because some developed new habits of having a part-time job, studying at home, being in the student housing and not attending class. So we've seen, not a bit difficult in getting students back on campus, and that's where the student life is there, where we can foster all the social relationships and relatedness and all the things that we discussed yesterday. So I think that's also in practical terms is an important aspect.
Very good. So Helge, you're transitioning now from professor role to rector, to be a rector. Will you still be continuing teaching in the happiness course at NHH?
I will be guest lecturing, but yeah, I'm sorry to say that I don't have time to do it full time.
But you will still do guest lecturing. I have to say, kudos Inko to you that you still lead by example and to give lectures in your subject despite your busy schedules as a rector. And
it's the nicest part of being an academic. So giving that up, that would be really hard.
Yeah, it's really to keep the connection with the students and not lining up yourself in an ivory tower, to be active with the students. And I'm really glad that it ticks your hearts. So what could we do more in terms of well-being? Could it be a strategic advantage for your universities? Could we do more in research, education, outreach? What do you think?
Of course, we can always do more.
Do you have ideas how to do more?
I just wanted to echo what was said already. I really think we should go back to a campus-based model. I think that will support us in terms of the research side, in terms of faculty members working together. But especially when it comes to student support from each other, when it comes to building the social networks that are important for them, also long-term, building the social capital, I think we should come back to a campus-based model. At Hanken, we really have experiential learning as a crucial part of our educational approach, meaning you work on practical problems, quite often in terms of working with others, and making sure that we have campuses where people would like to be. Be that having the best Wi-Fi in the city, be that offering a really nice lunch, and so on. I think we tend to have during COVID have forgotten the importance of space. I just yesterday returned 2 days late because of problems at Heathrow from California, where I visited 6 leading universities. And in those universities, it's really no alternative to the campus presence. And that's really what they offer their students. And I think that's something that we should really work on ourselves as well. Thank you.
I have perhaps a bit more philosophical answer to the paradox that was mentioned, that the more you chase it, the harder it becomes to attain happiness. What I meant is that if you focus too much on yourself, how happy am I? Am I happy enough? And so on. You're sort of chasing the wrong way, because happiness is something when you forget about yourself, then you realize that, okay, I'm actually quite happy. When you're focusing on something that you find really inspiring, or when you're focusing on doing something together with other people or for other people, then you realize you're actually quite happy. And that kind of goes back to why it's important to be on the campus and give those possibilities. And I would link this back to your good notion of the melting man. Mm. Because what we heard this morning is that it's a very special phase in people's lives when they are going from youth to adulthood. So they're forming their identities. And to not have too narrow boxes within our universities and allowing the possibilities to meet different kinds of worldviews and allowing that by that some of the barriers perhaps melt down a little bit is, I think, really healthy and helpful in these times. So, and one more point to that, I think the question of purpose is becoming more and more important. I have heard students, for example, in our university, wondering about why am I actually studying the violin? I mean, look at the world. What's the use of playing a violin when there's so many things that should be dealt with in a world that is going in a very wrong direction? So we are living in times where every student has to somehow think through, why am I doing what am I doing? And there we need each other for the sense-making kind of, and the ethical and philosophical questions are becoming more predominant and have to be dealt with within our education.
Final comments?
Yeah, I certainly, echo that you shouldn't focus on happiness itself, but the drivers of happiness. Because I think Mikael did a study of, I think it was 4,000 different Finns, and the more often he asked them, how happy are you, the less happy they become. So I don't think, focusing on happiness in itself is key, but there's a lot of stuff we know that makes people happy. And it might be very simple things. I think one of the lectures that the student in my course liked best this semester was a medical professor talking about the importance of sleep. And sleeping patterns, which is something we tend to forget. So there are some kind of small pockets on stuff that we could really focus on. And I also think, just teaching students, having them understand human behavior, human motivation. So even a major in finance needs to understand other human beings and what makes them tick and how to work in a, relationship and understand themselves. So I think, a tad more social psychology and the topics we discussed here today also in education itself makes people more robust as to the challenging life with all the uncertainty that's out there. Also tackling risk better.
Thank you very much. We are running out of time. Coming back to the final words maybe of this melting man idea that Carlo, you brought forward, I think we're experiencing something quite unique here today and yesterday. We are working together with Handels and Hanken, but now we have also NHH. And what really makes me happy to have arts included. So we don't need to tackle these well-being issues only inside our own boxes. For me, this is university at its best, because we're coming together in novel ways. The universities, and not only you rectors, but the student activists that we have in the room. None of the rectors were allowed to come without the students, so we're really happy to have students from each of the schools. And I think we might find new solutions by coming together in events like this, and hopefully more to come. So big thank you, rectors, for your time and going forward.
Thank you very much. We now have a 15-minute break. It's 10:25, so we'll continue at 10:40. So you have the opportunity to move around, grab some coffee, talk to each other, and then we have 2 more points on the agenda.
Det var nog bra. Jättekul att du stod upp för.
Ja.
Man förlorar liksom sense of time.
Jag vet exakt. have 2 sessions, 1 therapy session and 1 final panel discussion. I'm not entirely sure for whom it will be most therapeutic. I'm not here to speak about myself, but I just want you to help set the mood for this for myself and Michael, who's about to get up here on stage. We'll be supporting each other here. I have a childhood, well, it's not a trauma anymore, but I was at the time 8 years of age in elementary school, and there was a man who got up on stage at this event, and I was sort of moderating. It was at our school, and he was the main moderator, and I was supposed to help him. And he was taking the lead because he was a famous television personality. He was leading the very famous and hugely popular TV show, Napakymppi, a dating show. So he was, speaking a lot and doing big moves, and then this small child was next to him, and he was taking up all the space and breathing all the oxygen. And towards the end, there was a song that was supposed to be sung. Päivän sadia menninkäinen. How many can sing it? Yeah, not me neither. Because I went to school in Swedish. På svenska hela mitt liv. And he was a Finnish-speaking gentleman. So I was trying to mime along as an 8-year-old, almost crying. More so afterwards when I was off the stage, because I was totally embarrassed. In my mind, I was trying to mime, look at what are the freaking words. In sjunga vi på svenska någon jävla päivän sadia menninkäinen i skolan. However, we've seen Michael Dahlén here on stage. What a really nice and smart, knowledgeable person. So we agreed we'd be here on stage together. It's a human experiment. I don't know who's the animal being subjected to experiments, or is it you? But we're all in this together, aren't we, Michael?
Yeah, we are, for sure.
And do we have a microphone for you?
Yes, now it's on.
Oh, there, sorry, yes.
Wonderful.
So what do we want to achieve with this?
So we want to not close these 2 days, but rather open up for what's to come. And so first a check. Have you learned something this far? Made some kind of an insight? Please raise your hand. Wonderful. And that's part of your job, because my eyesight is completely gone. So you're my seeing eye person. I think I saw quite a few hands in the air, which is wonderful, but there's still time. So if you haven't learned something yet that is completely novel, maybe this is an opportunity. Did you know that if one were to shut down the escalators in the Stockholm subway so that people who are able to need to take the stairs instead? When interviewed coming out of the subway by us, they are on average a bit happier, a bit more optimistic about the day that's just beginning, and also a bit more attracted to people in the photos we show them. Yes, I could date this person. So if nothing else to take with you, that's something to tell someone.
Take the
and
stairs.
Maybe to take the stairs instead of the escalators. But what we are very mindful of in education reflection is the need also for training to make things that might seem awkward, silly, strange, and unfamiliar more natural. So I'd like for us to take this opportunity and train using the stairs. So your first assignment is to stand up, each and every one of you who are able. Say hello to the person or people next to you. Great. And now, use the next 6 minutes to train walking the stairs. So walk together 1 lap in this room and talk to each other about what you've learned and what you can and will make with that knowledge and those insights. Jag tror det var jag hade min telefon här. Där. Toppen, tack.
Härligt. Det blir bra foton här också.
Toppen. Det är ganska bra ljudnivå. Det gillar vi.
Ska vi be den sluta? Ska vi be den sätta sig?
Gott om tiden. Det hinner vara bra. 3 minuter kvar.
glas. Sen när du säger.
Toppen.
Stanna upp.
Sätta sig.
Jag tror det bästa.
Please have a seat. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So while you're sitting down, let me ask Michael a question. As you are sitting down, please allow me to ask Michael a question. You're a professor. Have you conducted this human experiment many times?
I have not. That's the cool thing, I think. I love this. Thank you so much for training together. Thank you so much for giving audible testimony to the power of togetherness. I love that. I have virtually no eyesight and I have virtually no hearing as well. So when I can hear the noise level, the energy level, audibly, physically, almost tangibly going up, that's such a wonderful, powerful testimony of the energy we produce together by walking and talking, sharing. That's so powerful and important. And to your question, have I done this before? No, that was one of my goals, and that is always my goal, to whenever I'm part of something, make something for the first time that is unique to me and hopefully to everybody. Life is not about rinsing and repeating. It's about embracing and fostering that wonderful beginner that is open, fully present, constantly learning for your own and for everyone's sake. And I've learned quite a bit just from that. Energy produce, yeah. To all of you, to all of you. Thank you for being part of my learning experience. Sorry for interrupting, but not really sorry, because I think my job is really only to interrupt, to start conversations, but it's important that we're never done. That conversations start, and that was one of our goals with these 2 days, to have shorter rather than longer sessions, so that we don't feel that, well, okay, now we're all content, we're all with the period mark. No, it's just a comma, a semicolon, or whatever kind of punctuation you prefer, just the start of something. So I hope and I urge you to keep this conversation going. So that's one, check. The other one is, well, this is kind of a hostage situation, I'm sure you're aware. I mean, we're taking you hostage. We invest our time, we gamble with having you here, because we firmly believe that having you here in conversation with each other, on the stage and the stairs and everywhere, you are committed to making something out of being here, not wasting yours or anyone else's time. So I just want to have a check to see who have we taken hostage. Show of hands, and stomp your feet as well so I can hear. How many of you are in education?
50%. 50%.
Quite a few. Lovely. How many of you are in industry? Great.
27%.
Wonderful. How many of you are in government, some kind of governmental body?
3.5%.
Then we're still lacking quite a few. What's the residual? How many of you are fellow human beings to someone?
99%.
Who's the remaining person? Please join the rest of humanity. That's wonderful, because, well, fundamentally, and kind of like a cliche, we're all in education. We're all in education, in learning, in teaching, in training. And we need to be in that togetherness. We need to be in that togetherness at a macro societal level, because what is society, what is democracy, what is the economy, if not us, together in a hopefully functioning togetherness for the sake of democracy, society, welfare, economy, and everything. What are we if not decision makers, leaders, colleagues, members of community, fellow human beings to each and everyone around us? And in that capacity, we can make a world of difference. Related to education, we think of the important things we can do in 3 respects. One being well-being, that's been talked and discussed very eloquently and insightfully already, enabling ourselves and others to be well enough, to be sustainable enough, to do well enough, which is super important with our students to train for being sustainable, for being in balance and well enough to be able to learn, train, do all the things, acquire all the knowledge we need right now and in the future. So I'd like to just get a feel for how many in education are involved in and work with well-being, of promoting, educating, training, sustainability, and well-being. Great.
40%.
40%.
45 maybe.
Would someone be so kind and share what to do?
We have microphones here.
We
so just
have
raise your hand.
hand mics and also table mics that you can switch on just by the press of a button.
There is one here in the second row, downstairs.
Please share.
Donde está el micrófono? Missä mikki?
Why? Yeah, okay. Now it's hearing. Hello, everyone. So it's a weird situation, a non-Finnish, standing here talk about the Finnish Happiness Academy. So myself has been lived in Finland, worked in Finland for 25 years. And I think my whole life career has been following my children's problem. And I think just on the walk, it was not a big problem, but I always, being in the educator, knowing what is the future problem the children may have. And then I'm always looking what the solution I can do when she was as a kindergarten, and now she's teenager. So there's different kind of issues we are tangling. So today I'm presenting Finnish Happiness Academy, and we have 3 products. And one of the product I think most relevant for today's topic is called AI-powered happiness mentor, to focus on helping the youth and to help them to identify the strength. I don't know how many of us today, as adult, as a CEO, we know what is our strength. Beware, not confused with the skill you have. We are good on the things we are doing because we have been in the escalator of the corporate trained steps, but those may not be the strength we are. The second, are we in the purpose of what we had when we were young? Are we really doing what we have? So the purpose, second thing. The third thing is that how to make this purpose and strength in the happiness point, the sustainable. So which means somebody pays for what you like and what you are good at. And that is where we put the AI supporter together with the UNESCO sustainable projects to be like TikTok. We don't want to use TikTok that way to make the brain like a bad way, but positive way, that we know your strength, we know your purpose, and how to push the sustainable projects to make a global youth to work together, make it meaningful. And that's what we do. And we are targeting to do. And we are still in the test mode. We have just made a prototype, and we are looking for cooperations with Hanken and all this wonderful university here to make it very scientific, strongly based, make it really pure Nordic.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I love that conclusion, looking for cooperation with. I hope we all are. And if not already, we all should be mindful of those opportunities, the necessities of which. Thank you. Anybody in industry working with training for well-being?
Nobody in the Nordic. This is why the world looks like so. It looks. One hand. The microphone?
Please share.
There's 2 microphones here. One microphone. Thank you.
Oh, you get a lot of stair training. You'll be the happiest person in this room.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra. I wasn't preparing to say anything, but I will now. I work as a brand designer, working with artists and businesses, and the way that I bring happiness as well is working together with people that have... it's a big part, the well-being when starting something, and being there as a supportive friend or listening is also a really important part alongside of talking about business and design. And I think it's something that I've learned along the way that I would like to improve, and is important to support people in their early stages as well with that in the industry.
Wonderful. Thank you. How many in industry monitor the well-being of the people in your organization? Oh, the deadly silence.
There is one hand here, 1.5, 1.7, so about 3.2 hands. Oh, there are 4.2, 5.2.
Please switch on a table mic or get a hand mic and share. How do you do that?
Test the table mic. Does it work?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Somebody
be courageous, be
try
bold.
the table mic.
It's part of happiness.
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Dot, 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 comma, semicolon. I'm not interrupting already. Please continue.
I can say something about it.
Yeah.
The reason I come from a company called Netlight, which is a digital consulting company, and the reason why I, for example, did not raise my hand before when it came to, in terms of how we do, what was the question, with kind of learning. The thing is, what we try to do is to make happiness more intrinsic. So it's not like it's a foundation of business and so on, and that is what makes it difficult. Like if you target it as something separately and learning and so on, and then well-being on this, like you need to do your job, and then you need to be well-being as well. When instead, like the well-being is intrinsic. So that's also goes into your second question, I think. That how do you measure well-being needs to be an intrinsic thing. So of course we have engagement surveys and things like that where you can measure it and then get sort of the statistics out of it. But I think mostly we do it by interaction. So having lots of proximity to people by having all sorts of connections in terms of mentors and sort of colleagues being encouraged to talk to you about it. So actually having some kind of an active conversation going on, and that way people know about each other and their well-being, and then it can be reported forward. So I would like to stress that aspect of talk to each other and have an ongoing conversation about this, and then it will emerge both the bad sides and the good sides of it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Do you have a table mic? Here, use the table mic. It seemed to work.
Yeah, I'm also one of those who didn't raise the hand because I'm in finance. Sorry, I didn't. So the organization I represent, OP Bank, is a very conservative organization. We really want our clients to feel trust to us, so we try to do things very by the rule. We interpret happiness through sustainability concepts, and I, as investment professional, so we look at long term also versus short term, which is very important. So really focusing like on the purpose of companies long term, how they perform. Also recognizing for our own like inclusion of neurodiverse people, various cultures and so on. So you name it. So this concept of happiness as such maybe feels a little esoteric, but I think it's super relevant to bring more to a more practical level going forward as part of the sustainability, more broad work that is being done in many industry and finance organizations. Thank you very much. It was very, very insightful.
Thank you very much. So you raised some very valid points, and those points have been risen continuously, that the trees and the forest, the importance of not getting stuck with conceptualizations and so forth. The proof is in the pudding. What we do, more important than what we call it. And that's why I think it's so great that we share and realize that there are quite a few different takes and practices related to being better, feeling less ill, to doing better. And in so seeing and sharing, we can empower each other. We can point to, because that's what we constantly find. And I've worked, and quite a few of us with, and Marcus for sure, we talked quite a bit about this, entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity. Everybody wants to be the first at doing something, but would also like to see someone else having succeeded in doing so previously. And so we get stuck almost getting there. And this is one way of having your potentially unique take and conceptualization of what you do, but also seeing that others have, from their vantage points in their operations and so forth, been able to for better. That's also why it's so important that we share, that we talk. Okay, so that's one point I conceive of our mission being promoting, enabling well-being for sustainability, being well enough right now to do well enough right now and to invest in a better future. The other aspect is welfare. Equipping, informing everyone to be agents of welfare. Because we've been talking about that, what is potentially unique to the Nordics, or at least something we're really good at. A joint welfare of all being part of a greater community that everyone contributes to and benefits from. And being aware of the part you are playing and could potentially play is super important. Studies in social contagion, smiling is contagious. We're all contagious in how we feel and what we do. And studies show that well-being and ill-being can be contagious by amounts up to 30%. So we're all in it together. So I'd like to hear from government this time. Those, how many percent were they? 3.5%?
3.5.
So no pressure whatsoever. I'm hoping for some government testimony to what do you do to inform and equip people in your organization or in society to be welfare agents.
Here's a government official, a bureaucrat. Typical bureaucrat shall speak now.
Oh my goodness. My name is Katarina. I'm a local government person and a part-time happiness researcher.
Wonderful combination.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, so what I do in my own organization, I try to remind the leaders about the importance of well-being for the staff all the time. That's what I'm trying to do. But then let's speak in general, what I think people should do. You were, Mikael, talking about for young people that they should walk slowly. That is very important. Go out, walk. Don't take the car, walk. Go and see people, go and see what's around you. That increases your happiness for sure. And there's a lot of research about the decrease in social capital, the decrease in sense of communities, which is happening here in Finland. It's happening all over, at least in the Western world. But how to tackle this? Well, let's create a sense of community. Go to a cafe, don't eat at home every evening, don't order your meals at home, get out of the Netflix, get out of your phone. And there's kind of, nowadays, if we see company, we want to see new people, we put a profile on Tinder or something like that. So you seek people with a certain profile. Go and seek different kinds of people, which is the strength of this congress as well. I think for me as a happiness researcher, the content wasn't that new, but I learned a lot from the people who were attending here, which is, it was absolutely great. So that's what I want to say as well. Go out, meet different kinds of people, not just the people who are like you.
Great, thank you. I love that. So I'm just spitballing. This is a citizen, a civic power, capability we all have. With that comes opportunity and potentially also responsibility and obligation. So maybe we should make it an obligation for every citizen to, I don't know how many times a week, go have a fika, for instance.
Or sauna. I have to say it. I'm not doing my job if I don't say it.
Yeah, or the library or the market square, or wherever
And I
people
love
used to
that.
go before.
That's a talking point. If nothing else, I want you to bring with you the idea that on stage in the final session was a professor telling everyone that it needs to be a responsibility of every citizen that government should oversee to go into the sauna or have a fika like 8 times a week. What about industry? Any testimonies from industry in informing, enabling, equipping people to be agents of welfare for their colleagues, for stakeholders with the organization? Anyone?
You'll get the final word before we end this session. So, a unique opportunity. Industry.
No pressure.
In that case, there is a hand. Try the microphone now. Let's see. We are at Hanaholm, and typically the tech is working quite nicely, so let's give it a try. Turn it on first. Yes, that helps. Is there a red light? Yes.
1, 2, 1, 2. Bridging the gap between formal education and informal learning is the dilemma. Here, even here, it has been formal education. You have been getting your points for your master studies. Actually, I'm not working. Happiness is my hobby in Aivotalli Brain Garage. And the point is really that all the learning points that you've been giving here, they are really going out of here, but all the people are spending more outside their industry or whatever you mean with industry nowadays. Mm-hmm. So, informal learning.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I started this whole thing yesterday with homework, and mind you, I end this with more homework. Taking things out of this classroom, so to speak. So having opened up for the opportunities and obligations related to fostering, being more mindful of training, educating, well-being for sustainability in education, industry, government as decision makers, fellow human beings, colleagues, and so forth. What can you do? What will you do? Fostering, informing, and everything for welfare agency. What can you do? What will you do? Your homework right now is to look the person next to you, in front of you, or behind you in the eyes and say, well, I will try in the coming week to do this. And then exchange contact information so that by the end of the week, you will need to report back what you've done. Thank you.
Härligt. So we'll go into the final session now to round things off. It's been an intense 2 days, I would say. So as you are now exchanging your final contact info or finalizing that over lunch, it's my pleasure to ask up here on stage the organizers of this event in the final panel. There are only 2 names. We need 4 names. The originals one plus these. So I kindly ask up on stage 4 individuals. I need 5 chairs. In other words, with me here up on stage, I kindly ask Mikael to come up here in the chair that was just put up here. Next to him, we'll have Markus, and then Onni and Larry. And as they're coming up on stage, I need you all to be aware of the name Onni. How many know what the word Onni means? Only about half of you. It's a Finnish name, not a very common one, but it means happiness and luck.
Woo!
Michael, Markus, Anton, and Onni. And I'll sit there at the edge.
At the edge, I love that.
Sitting down finally. It's been intense, but there has been a lot of learnings, I think, both in terms of knowledge and in some cases also regarding skills, how to actually do things. But this was the first ever historical Nordic Happiness Summit of its kind. I was involved in the slush event the first 2 years as just a participant, but then years 3, 4, 5, together with Peter Westerbacka and some others, carrying the chairs before the event, and everybody else went partying or home to sleep. Then we carried the chairs away. And then the event was given to students after that. And then it just simply blew up. So I want to start with Markus about the genesis of this event briefly, because clearly there was a spark for this event coming from somewhere, and then there was almost maybe simultaneously an idea, well, let's give it to the student. What the hell were you thinking?
Spark of the event was last spring when Finland was 7th year the happiest country, and of course a curious mind of wondering what the heck does this mean, and let's try to make sense of this. So I was born out of curiosity, and I was super delighted to have our friends and colleagues coming in from Sweden and Norway and to try to make sense of this phenomena. But beyond this curiosity, I thought that this is a perfect opportunity for student empowerment. So I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but I was thinking at something that was clearly smaller than what we have experienced. So what I have now experienced during this journey has been an immense delight, and to see our young people, especially Anton and Onni both, to blossom so beautifully and lead with elegance with the whole core team, with the extended team, and it has made my heart sing. So really, guys, you have done a fantastic work.
Applause.
By the way, these 2 guys are still single. I just promised to say this. So any ladies in the audience, talk about hot guys.
Okay, good.
Take the stairs.
So the organizing team will be coming up for a final photo shoot, as well as the extended team with all the volunteers, etc. And we'll take a group photo, including everyone. So if you want to be part of the historic photo, don't leave until this is really over with the final photo. So.
And those photos will be up on Tinder by the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. So what were you guys thinking? What happened when you heard about this? What were your first reactions and what were your first actions?
Yeah, I also didn't really think it would get this big. It feels like it kind of snowballed.
And when were you approached, actually?
In October.
Yeah, from spring to October. So okay, several.
Yeah, so it's been quite a tight schedule.
Wow.
I would also say it's taken a lot more time than I thought, but it's been really nice. Really privileged. Feel really proud also to have worked with Onni and Markus and also of course Mikael and the team in Sweden. We also have two project leaders, Mo and Emilia, who's from Stockholm School of Economics, has also been helping us there. No, I don't know. It's throughout my student life, I've always said yes to things. So I'm really happy I said yes to this as well.
Right, Onni. What happened? What were your reactions and thoughts, and what were some of your first actions?
Like Anton, I wasn't really expecting it to be something this big, but then we had a few meetings in October, and Markus had this PowerPoint presentation with ice sculpture and 250 people at Hanaholmen. And I think the first thing we realized that this would not be possible, only two of us. So really the first thing we did, and I guess the thing that we can be most proud of is that there has been so many other people, especially the volunteers, almost 30 of them working on this together. And also doing this together with amazing partners, a lot of professional people from different organizations. I think it's really been the most valuable thing here.
And if you have questions or comments in the audience, happy to see you raise your hand, and we'll bring in some of your comments and questions as well. Yeah, you were saying something.
Could I just share a small secret? I had spotted both of the guys, of course, before, but being at our lab. But Onni, I was just waiting for the special moment to have a project that we could engage and work with together with you, and now to have the Happiness Summit and with Mr. Onni was just the perfect match. And with Anton's, really where my heart goes for the student activism as the president of the Student Council of Hanken. These two gentlemen that nowadays are called Antonni in the email, so they merged together.
Like a couple.
Like a couple. You have done
celebrity couple. Well, let's not go there. Hold on to the Tinder thought instead. Yeah, exactly. So, Mikael, why hasn't a Nordic Happiness Summit been organized before? Why suddenly only now after all these years? All the Nordics have been in the top for ages.
Yeah, so I think first of all we need to say, at the conclusion of every Olympic Games, best games ever.
Yeah.
Best Nordic Happiness Summit ever. Woohoo! Right? Yeah. On that note, I think we need to remind ourselves that happiness and well-being are far too important to take fully and only seriously. We need to be lighthearted, we need to have fun, we need to be humorous, and to that effect, Reidar, you've been working wonders. So thank you so much.
Beautiful, Reidar. Woo!
I appreciate that. Above all, I have to say, because I do moderation a few times a year, mostly I'm myself a keynote speaker and presenter, but especially in a friends or almost like a family setting like this, feeding off the energy. I think we've all felt it who've been up here. There are people here who are laughing and smiling and sounding not like typical Finland people. Yes, very interesting event. Very good presentation. I like this very much. This is so interesting. So glad to have this Nordic family here. So what can you tell?
Yeah, and that's super important to please. It's super serious. It's a matter of literally, which we've heard, life or death. In this case, we're all in it together for the sake of everyone and the entire planet, but we need to not make that so serious that we talk about it, but we put it off. We need to have an approach behavior, because it provides, it makes energy, it's fun. It needs to be a lot of fun along the way as well. And nothing is, and it must not be an either or. Society, politics, economics, togetherness, life, happiness. It's not an either or. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. And that's beautiful and a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like a humorous music group, they can be really professional, be taken seriously, even if, or actually because they do humor so well.
Yeah, and that kind of finally gets me to approach my answer to your question. Why now? Well, because everything, everywhere, all at once kind of came together. We met, we started our lovely Center for Wellbeing, Welfare and Happiness and got in connection with quite a few others, have been working on this, and then finally just deciding, let's do it, and being not patient enough to wait until everything is perfect. We consider this, I love the Swedish word, mjuk start.
Mjuk start.
It's a soft start. It's nice, it's cushiony and everything. It doesn't matter if you fall on your face, because it's mjukt, it's soft.
You must explain more to me as well. I don't know, never heard.
So this is really, it's the best Nordic Happiness Summit ever. And that, I promise, I think we can all promise, will be said next year as well. And each and every year to come will be the best Nordic Happiness Summit, because we will learn and do better together, come more and more together each and every year. And we might only convene for 2 days, but the Nordic happiness in our minds and beings, I hope, is an everyday.
I think this is the start of like I was talking about, about being among friends or family, but in concrete terms, a community. And many people know each other from before. But how many have met at least 3 new people you've never met before? Well, practically everyone. So there are so many new connections which this event has brought about. So keeping in touch, and I'm not suggesting digital platforms necessarily per se, like a community, Nordic Happiness Network, but it's clearly happening spontaneously. So the question is, will there be some kind of systematic connections in between? Let's see. But as we are moving forward, let's talk about, look at the big picture. You said the picture grew along the way, which is an example of what happened with Slush, for example, just using that as an example, because it's been like 15,000 people from 200 in the very first early beginnings. What kind of picture do you see in front of you? How big could or should this be, or is this lagom the best way to do it? What is, let's take the Finland perspektiivi, Finland-svenska perspektiivi, and then svenska, det var bara mjukstart. Perhana.
May I answer the question?
Absolutely.
So I think personally that this is a topic that should have the biggest audiences possible. Well-being, happiness, I think we should set no limits for growth for this event and should instead think like, enable,
think big.
Yeah, think big or even bigger. And I think we're very happy to have like Swedish people here with us, because we know that Swedish are like even more like, I think optimistic and good at growing stuff. So like, look at your companies and everything and Abba. So like, let's make this the next ABBA. Why not?
We have already Elvis. We saw last night singing with the choir. So,
how do you feel, Anton?
No, yeah, I agree. I hope it grows. And some have also asked, will we be part of the 27? And it's sort of a mixed answer, because I hope it stays like it is now with students running it. And I hope I'm not a student in 2 years. I'll try to graduate, but would love to be involved somehow. So it's a bit of I hope it stays. I hope it stays connected to students, because I think also walking here yesterday and today, I've been saying it a lot. It's like good energy,
Well, Peter Westerbacka is hanging around with his red hoodie after 15 years. You know, you have your black hoodies ready, so I'm sure we'll see you there with everyone in 2075 at the Nordic Happiness Summit, with slush as a nice side event, you know. So it'll be good.
Yeah, and none of us ever really stop being a student.
Exactly. How do you feel? Hur känns det nu?
Beyond the size and the growing stuff, I think what most remarkable has been for me, what has happened in terms of, use the word of human connections. I would go even deeper, that beyond the knowledge of the head, the learnings of the heart that this journey has given, in terms of friendships that have been born through this. We had a wonderful time meeting with you, Mikael and Dante, son of Mikael, to go to Miami together, and our Buster brothers from Finland. But also the friendships I have seen that you guys have born, the whole core team. Really, if you take some treasure out of this thing, is the friendships. And I hope some of you have also experienced the possibilities or emerging friendships that has been born from here. And if we compare this, what the World Happiness Summit delivered, I think we really have an edge to create really even stronger proximity, friendship, focus on quality. We don't always need to be the biggest, but let's be the best.
I really also like the video we had the first day that started with the Vedar voicing it. I really love the quote there, community fuels growth. So I think that's also what this is. It's, if you have a sense of community, I think it's much easier to grow.
Yeah. Are there any spontaneous reactions or questions from the audience? We're about to end in just 2 minutes, but there is one hand from a gentleman. Please open your mic, which you have, and go ahead.
Yes, I'll just say, as the one Danish contingent, that we're really excited to be here, and we would love to also contribute, more in the future and grow in this community, and yeah, we're a study abroad organization, so we brought our students who are visiting from the United States, and it was a...
Oh, there are Americans here. How many Americans? Where are you guys? All right, good to have you here. Woo!
But a very special thank you, obviously, for having us. But moving forward, I think it would be also great for us to have some sort of a Danish perspective, just because we're also in that Nordic
family. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
And perhaps even also
we were kind of
Icelandic.
calling and emailing, so
Yes.
next year you'll be more active.
For sure.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
But you were here, and brought Americans to strengthen your. Yeah. Let's not talk about geopolitics today. So, thank you very much. That was actually quite an excellent comment here. We got the Danish perspective here. But this is more or less it. I want to keep the schedule. This was a little bit shorter than was intended, but I think we hear all the main points at this stage. It's 11:44. We're expected to end at 11:45. So I'll conclude, and we need to give now a huge round of applause to the organizers. Just a second. And when we have now Onni and Anton here, they'll then be getting together also with the organizing team. And then there will be a photo of them, and then another photo with all the volunteers. And when that photo has been taken here on stage, the team will go here into the middle aisle, and then our photographer will come up here and take a photo of everybody. So just stay put for just a few minutes, because we have our highly effective photographer here taking care of this. But I'll conclude by giving the word to Markus.
Super. And once again, big applause to Reidar. You've done such a wonderful job. Really. Perfect host for first ever Nordic Happiness Summit. I would like to conclude with a small gift to our wonderful project managers, Anton and Onni. So You superseded my expectations. I thought about giving one bottle each, but you have grown together into Antoni, so you rather get one big bottle. And so hopefully you can cherish these months we have worked like crazy together, the sauna experiences, everything that has happened in between. I've learned so much from you guys. You have been a lot of inspiration, your gracious style, your really a lot of beautiful things that you have taught me along the way. And hopefully we can do many, many wonderful things going forward together. And this is until Vappu or whenever we get to celebrate again. So, gentlemen.
And of course, I would be remiss if I did not say to be continued, and let's all meet in Stockholm next year.
Woohoo!
So now let's be snappy. So if we get Onni and Anton here in the middle on the top stair, and then the organizing team members, all of you who are here in the organizing team, will take one photo with you, and then after that, another picture with all the volunteers who are in the room as well, and it can be still brought from the corridors. So please surround Onni and Anton as quickly as possible here on these stairs, and a photo will be taken from up there, and after that, we'll be switching around to get this historic photo. Yes, a slide with the Nordic Happiness Summit logo. Yes, perfect. Is someone missing from the main organizing team still?
Should we get people from the borde vi ta från reception?
All right.
Ta foto då.
Cheese.
Komma med i foto. Ja, men han tar det ju. Okej. Nej, men komma med i bild.
Very good. And then volunteers. And I'll sneak in here as well. Are there other people or volunteers? Everybody here? So we continue. The team stays.
Are kind of working, but can I get them?
Yeah,
okay.
Snap is up.
Well, they stop working for 30 seconds.
Yes.
And then we'll turn around and the team will be in the middle aisle. Or closer. Come to the front. Yeah. Here on this spreading. Yeah. Better. Ja, du är så jävligt bra. Okay. And big smiles and hands up. Cover each other's faces. Yeah. All right, and now please, everybody who was up here, please go into the middle aisle, and then the photographer will quickly turn around, and we'll get a photo of everybody. All the speakers, just sit down. So, yeah, you could sit on the stairs. That's probably best, actually. Exactly, yes. Otherwise, you'll be on different height compared to the audience members. That's a good point, yes. So just sit down on stairs, and it'll be good.
Hello, Radar. It's Bambi here. I have this one request. Before everybody goes, can we take one small video where we shout Nordic Happiness Summit and yay?
Yes. Where's Daniel, our videographer? So yeah, we can do that. I'll sit just next to you.
Awesome,
here.
thank you.
Okay. Can we all fit in? Oh, excellent. Everyone's ready. Oh, Onni.
I will have a timer, so when I lift it up,
Do a video as well? Or one more photo? What do you think? One more. So what do we say? Welcome to Nordic Happiness Summit. Or what do we want to say?
Welcome to Nordic Happiness Summit.
Yeah.
And then you count first, 1, 2, 3, and then everybody says that, and then we say, yay!
So can you do like with your finger 1, 2, 3?
If I'm rolling, you can then count and we count afterwards.
Okay, we cut it out. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's do it twice. First once, and then, because it's not that good, they will take it again. So, welcome to Nordic Happiness Summit. That's the rhythm. Okay, 1, 2, 3, now. Welcome to Nordic. So, yes. On 3, yes. Okay.
3.
1, 2, 3. Welcome to Nordic Happiness Summit. Yeah! As I said the second time. Have a good lunch and see you in Stockholm next year.
Tack så mycket.